This massive world we live on, and that endless sky we look up at every single night, will one day completely vanish. But do you want to know what's truly mind-blowing? The most radical theories that modern scientists are just now discovering in labs and through massive telescopes about the end of the universe were already detailed, word for word, in sacred texts written in a desert 1400 years ago. Is this just a coincidence, or is it a cosmic signature? Today, astrophysicists tell us that the universe is constantly expanding. Galaxies are racing away from each other at the speed of light. Humanity only learned this in the 20th century thanks to Edwin Hubble. Yet in the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Dhariyat, there is a crystal clear declaration. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. And the heaven we constructed with strength, and indeed we are its expander. The greatest discovery of modern science was already the very first sentence of antiquity. So where does this endless expansion lead? Right now, the scientific community is debating the darkest scenario, the big freeze or the heat death of the universe. One day, every single star in the cosmos will run out of fuel. Our sun will turn into a cold black mass of carbon, and the lights of the universe will go out one by one. The cosmos will sink into absolute silence, just as it was foretold over 1,000 years ago in Surah At-Takwir. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. When the sun is wrapped up in darkness, and when the stars fall, losing their light. But that's not all. If that mysterious dark energy in the cosmos grows even stronger, scientists predict a scenario called the Big Rip. This is a force so violent that it will tear apart galaxies, planets, and the very fabric of space-time like a piece of cloth. At this exact point, Surah Al-Infitar delivers a jaw-dropping description. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. When the sky breaks apart and rips open what physicists call the tearing of the space-time fabric, sacred texts described as the ripping of the sky, and then comes the grand finale, the Big Crunch theory, born right out of Einstein's equations. One day, the universe will stop expanding, and under the crushing weight of its own gravity, it will begin to collapse inward. Everything will reverse. Galaxies and stars will crash into one another, and the entire universe will fold back into the ultra-dense singularity where it all began 13.8 billion years ago, just like a book being closed shut. Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 104, perfectly summarizes this cosmic endgame. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. The day when we will roll up the heavens like a scroll rolled up for books. As we began the first creation, we will repeat it. How is it that modern science and divine messages converge on the exact same terrifying, apocalyptic scenarios? We are about to break down the death chronology of the universe, black holes, and that dreadful day when the heavens will be rolled up, all through the lens of both physics and revelation. The truth is far more gripping than you think. If you're ready, we are beginning this mind-bending journey to the end of time, roughly 13.8 billion years ago, in a timeless and spaceless eternity. Everything sparked from a single point. Modern astrophysics calls this the Big Bang. For centuries, scientists believed the universe was static, steady, and it existed forever. That was until 1929, when Edwin Hubble looked through his massive telescope and discovered that galaxies weren't drifting closer. They were racing away from each other at staggering speeds. The universe was not static. It was expanding faster with every passing second. Now set aside the fact that humanity only unlocked this scientific truth in the 20th century with advanced technology. Travel back 1400 years to the heart of the desert. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. The Holy Quran, in Surah Al-Dhariyat, verse 47, states exactly, and the heaven we constructed with strength, and indeed, we are its expander. The verse explicitly uses the concept of active, ongoing expansion. The expanding universe model which defines modern cosmology today, was shining as a miracle in this sacred text centuries ago. But what is the ultimate fate of this ever-stretching cosmic fabric? How do science and sacred texts merge in the death sentence of the universe? We now enter the darkest phase. In astrophysics, there is a scenario known as the Big Freeze, or the heat death of the universe. According to this theory, the universe will expand so much that the gravitational bonds between galaxies will snap. Stars will burn through their nuclear fuel, exhausting their hydrogen. First, our own sun will swell into a red giant, swallowing the inner planets, including Earth, before shrinking into a pitch-black, freezing ball of carbon, completely dying out. And it's not just our sun. Trillions of stars across the cosmos will lose their energy one by one. The lights of the universe will turn off. The cosmos will be plunged into absolute darkness, absolute cold and absolute silence, a finality where stars fall away. When we open the sacred texts, we find that the cosmic apocalypse is described as beginning with this exact stellar death. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Surah At-Takwir, verses 1 and 2 state, when the sun is wrapped up in darkness, and when the stars fall, losing their light. Surah Al-Mursalat, verse 8, supports this scientific language with a striking phrase, when the stars are obliterated and their light is extinguished, what scientists call the exhaustion of energy and stellar death due to the laws of thermodynamics. The Quran visualizes as the wrapping up and extinguishing of light. The lamps of the cosmos are fading. But what will happen to space-time itself? There is a mysterious force driving this expansion. Dark energy. Scientists suggest that if dark energy becomes overwhelmingly dominant over time, the universe won't just expand. The rate of expansion will become so wildly uncontrollable that gravity will no longer be able to hold anything together. This theory is called the Big Rip. In this stage, galaxies will first be torn apart from one another. Then, planets will be ripped away from their host stars. Ultimately, atoms, molecules, and the very fabric of space-time itself will rip wide open like a piece of cloth. Everything will be shattered into subatomic pieces. The sky will lose its structural integrity. This terrifying cosmic tearing is mirrored in the Quran with almost the exact same imagery, the splitting of the heavens. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Surah Al-Inshiqaq. Verse 1. When the sky is split open. Surah Al-Infitar. Verse 1. When the sky breaks apart and rips open. Surah Al-Haqqa, verse 16, describes this tearing even more vividly. And the sky will be split. For that day it is infirm and ruined. The fact that physicists define space-time as a fabric and predict that this fabric will literally rip apart in its ultimate extreme echoes the centuries-old scriptural descriptions of a cracking, fracturing sky. But the nightmare doesn't end here. The torn universe will eventually pull itself back into a single point. Another massive endgame scenario, derived from Einstein's theory of general relativity, is the Big Crunch. If the total mass and gravitational pull of the universe manage to overcome the outward push of dark energy, the expansion will one day grind to a halt. Then, like a rubber band snapping back after being stretched to its limit, the universe will begin to collapse in on itself. Everything will reverse. Galaxies, stars, and planets will crash and pile into one another. The cosmos will shrink smaller and smaller until it folds back into the ultra-dense subatomic singularity, the massive cosmic black hole where it all began. A return to the absolute starting point, like closing the cover of a book. This Big Crunch theory is illustrated in the Holy Quran through a direct and profound analogy. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Listen closely to Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 104. The day when we will roll up the heavens like a scroll rolled up for books. As we began the first creation, we will repeat it. That is a promise binding upon us. Indeed, we will do it. The phrase, like a scroll rolled up, mirrors the scientific theory of the universe folding back and closing in on itself. The part stating, as we began the first creation, we will repeat it, is a flawless description of returning to that initial singularity of the Big Bang. But is this an absolute end? Physicists suggest that after a big crunch, a big bounce could occur, giving birth to a completely new universe with entirely new laws of physics. Similarly, sacred texts reveal that after the apocalypse, a brand new realm, an eternal home, will be established, as stated in Surah Ibrahim, verse 48. On the day the earth will be replaced with another earth, and the heavens as well. Whether you look at the complex equations of modern astrophysics or the divine messages sent 1400 years ago, they all converge on one undeniable truth. This grand, mysterious cosmos we inhabit is not eternal. It had a beginning, and it will inevitably have an end. So what do you think about these parallels? Is it a mere coincidence that these cutting-edge scientific theories were outlined centuries ago? Or is it the signature of the creator of the universe? Let's talk in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. See you in the next Cosmic Mystery.